Hello, my friends and gems. Today I wanted to share with you a German research study that talked about the photonic light emissions from a non-meditator, which typically the non-meditator emits 20 photons of light per second, as opposed to a meditator who emits up to 100,000 photons of light per second, which is basically 5,000 times more than the average person. So this particular research study is a German scientific paper that was written. It's only 7 pages long, and I thought that it would be really interesting for you guys to hear the entire paper. It's not very long, it's only 7 pages, and I think it'll give you a great deal of clarity, especially if you're one who meditates on a regular basis or someone who not just meditates but also does coherence healings. So let's talk about this. The case study is named Visible Light Radiated from the Heart with Heart Rhythm Meditation. It's written by Bear, MS, and here's the abstract. The abstract says, research at the University of Kassel in Witzenhausen, Germany in 1997 showed that it is possible to produce visible light from the chest area under certain conditions. The first condition is that the meditation technique must be heart-centered, not transcendent. Secondly, a specific person with an actual need must be identified as a receiver of the transmitted light. Under these conditions, a sustained light emission of 100,000 photons per second was measured, where only the background count of 20 photons per second was observed without meditation. Okay, page 2. Equipment description. Photomultiplier tube. The tube was an EMI type 9635QA with very high efficiency, specially selected for single photon count mode. Light intensities down to the 10 to the negative 17 watts are measurable within this tube. The tube is sensitive in the range of 200 nm ultraviolet to 630 nm, where sensitivity drops sharply so as to exclude thermic photons, infrared, to be counted. Dark count rate without substrate was 12 photons per second. Dark count rate within the dark chamber was 20 photons per second. Preamplifier discriminator. The preamplifier discriminator amplifies the initially very small signal to a 5-volt level and suppresses artificial photon sources. Cooled housing. The cooling serves to keep the dark count rate extremely low. We employed a Peltier type cooling system that was able to cool the tube housing from room temperature down to negative 25 degrees Celsius. Measurements were taken at negative 20 degrees Celsius. Hardware and software. The software and the hardware were specifically designed by ALV of Langen, Germany, an internationally renowned specialist for the laser applications and measurements of very small particles. One of their projects was with NASA. Software was designed to operate the equipment in single photon count mode. Dark chamber. For this experiment, the dark chamber was completely lined with light-absorbing black cloth so that the total photon count without objects to measure was as low as 20 photons per second. Experimental procedure. So in figure 1 of the document, you have the experimental setup. The equipment was set up and monitored by Winfried Fuchs-Schoffen, PhD, who was at the time a PhD candidate at the University of Kassel, figure 1. The meditator was Bear, co-founder of the Institute of Applied Meditation. The meditator disrobed and entered the air-conditioned dark chamber, which was then sealed. Inside the chamber, the size of a closet, were black blankets that the meditator wrapped around himself for warmth. After approximately 1 hour, the computer showed a background count in the chamber of 20 photons per second, regardless of whether the meditator was naked or wrapped. The delay of an hour was necessary to dissipate the fluorescence of the body as it gives off light that it had absorbed from the ambient outside light. Nudity was required to eliminate fluorescence from fabrics and to prevent static electrical discharges. So initially the meditator tried to sit with the end of the cooled housing against his bare chest. However, this proved to be uncomfortable as the metal tube was quite cold. Connected to the liquid helium cooled photomultiplier, and he was not able to put his legs under the table, so sitting was awkward. A decision was made to sit upright in a chair with his chest approximately 3 feet from the housing. At this point, the meditator began a series of meditations designed to increase energy in the spine and heart and radiate light. The meditations included Kundalini practices, invocations of divine light, and Dhikr, that's D-H-I-K-R. So Kundalini practices. In these meditations, energy is drawn up the spine from the earth by using a strong inhalation with that visualization. Then the breath is held with attention placed above the crown. The exhalation is full and complete, forcing energy down as seen from above the crown, the spine, and then forward from the heart. The practice is extremely energetic, resulting in a feeling of ecstasy and radiance. Invocation of divine light. These are Sufi meditations that use chanting out loud and silently to create vibrations that stimulate the heart and the third eye. Specifically, the Arabic words Noor and Ma, now, Wir are spoken slowly with emphasis on the vowels, placing the resonance of the sound in the throat and chest. They produce the sensation of having a miniature sun in the chest. Dhikr. I'm not 100% sure that I'm pronouncing this correctly because it's D-H-I-K-R. Dhikr. That's how I'm pronouncing it. The repetition of the Arabic phrase La ilaha illa lahu is an ancient prescription for entering into the consciousness of the one and only being. It is performed with attention on the heart at the center of the experience and results in a feeling of profound heart-centeredness. Initial results. There were some brief and ecstatic measurements of 37,000 to 45,000 photons per second while the meditator was meditating. That was in figure 2. Then there were periods of up to 10 to 20 minutes with no readings. Then again, brief periods of a few seconds of light. When light was measured, the experimenter told the meditator of the results through a one-way audio link. The experimenter had a microphone and the meditator was wearing headphones. This erratic performance was very frustrating to the meditator, who was trying to use the feedback as a guide towards more reliable light output. None of the meditations produced consistent results, yet all produced light at some times. Intermission. After approximately 10 hours of meditation, the experiment was called off and the meditator emerged from the chamber. The experimenter and the meditator retired to the experimenter's home for dinner. The experimenter's son, approximately 4 years old, had come down with a severe cold. The meditator, discouraged from the day's efforts, retreated to his room and slept. Early in the morning, the meditator awoke with an intense insight. The young boy needed light for his healing. By 8 a.m., the experiment was begun again. Results. After the meditator spent an hour in the dark chamber, the background count returned to 20 photons per second. Then the meditator did a healing meditation in which he mentally placed the sick boy in front of himself and sent light to the boy on the exhalation coming from his heart. This is a technique of heart rhythm meditation. This was, in comparison to the complex and intense meditations of the previous day, a rather simple and easy meditation. The effort required by the meditator was emotional rather than mental and very minor in comparison to the previous trials of intense concentration. The computer measured 100,000 photons per second consistently for half an hour until the meditation was stopped. This would be enough lights to be barely visible. It has been estimated that 1,000 photons per second entering the eye are enough to create a visible sensation. Actually, only a few photons per second striking through the retina are sufficient, but the eyeball absorbs nearly 1,000 photons per second in its lens and fluid. As a comparison, the meditator then unwrapped his wristwatch, which had a fluorescent dial, and held it in front of his chest. Bye. So the computer indicated 1 million photons per second. In the dark chamber, with his eyes adjusted to the absolute darkness, the light of the wristwatch dial seemed to be bright enough to read by. Conclusion. Light generation was eventually achieved by the combination of effective meditation technique and the intention of sending light to a specific patient in need of healing. Notice how they are very precise in letting us know that it's not to a group of people, but to one specific person. And this is one meditator on one person, not one meditator on a group. The meditation technique used is called Heart Rhythm Meditation and is detailed in the book Living from the Heart, Random House 1998, authored by the meditator. So without healing intention, in spite of his best efforts using a variety of meditations he had mastered, the meditator was not able to generate consistent light emissions. The amount of light emitted from his chest and reaching a photomultiplier directly in front, 3 feet away, was 2 orders of magnitude greater than what is required for visibility, and 1 order of magnitude less than what is required for reading with dark adjusted eyes. So the results serve as a warning to those conducting objective experiments in subtle energy where there is not a need for actual healing. It seems that a known specific receiver subject is necessary to empower the transmitter subject. The emission of light from other angles and from other parts of the body was not tested. Furthermore, the frequency of light was not measured, only the amplitude in the instrument's range of sensitivity. So there you have it, my friends and gems. We've been talking about consciousness. We did the 90-day Heart Made Consciousness experiment. As you all know, when we go to Dr. Joe's 7-day advanced events, as well as the advanced day of Fuse, we do coherence healing for specific subjects, people who have been identified, who need healing, who have documented illnesses. And it is just fascinating that this particular paper was written, over 20 years ago. And it is basically documenting that the average person emits 20 photons of light per second. And an individual meditator, by doing the specific meditative practice that we just heard about in this research paper, that you could, in fact, as long as you have the meditator focusing on a subject, a person who needs the healing, that the light that is emitted is 5,000 times greater, to the tune of 100,000 photons of light per second. So that is, I think, quite extraordinary to see, hear, read, sense these results with the simple act of meditating and putting your focused intent on another human being that needs healing. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this research paper. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, I think this is more evidence that we're on the right track, and that we're at the right place with the right people doing the right thing, and that we need to continue moving forward in our journey and just continuing this practice. This is a practice that we will take to our grave. It is my hope that you would do that. That is my plan, to continue meditating. I've been meditating for a long time, and I plan to continue doing this. This is something that is of benefit not only to me, but to those who are around me, and to those who are the focus of my attention when I have my intention set on having them as the subject during a coherence healing, or whatever else it is that they might need. It doesn't have to always just be healing. It can also be, the manifestation of whatever it is that focal point is. That's what the clear intention that Dr. Joe talks about, when you marry it with an elevated emotion in that relaxed but awake and aware state. Okay, well, please like that like button for this video, share it with a friend, hit that notification bell if you want to be informed of the next video that's going up, and Thank you for tuning in, tapping in, turning on, and as always, for now I say, ciao for now.